What's up YouTube? Welcome back to Celio's Network. In this video, I'm going to be going over the top decks of standard format and explaining the lists a bit and why they have made my list of the top decks of standard. So the following decks have been determined to be the most competitively viable and high-performing decks of the current format, which is Ultra Prism through Unified Minds as of today. The major tournaments that have occurred in this format include World Championships and the DC Open flights, which were 2 flights of 600 and so people. League Cup results are also a factor, but have less weight in deciding the decks on this list in comparison to the Worlds and the DC Open results. This is my list of top decks for the second week of standard format with Unified Minds being legal. We're going into the third weekend in about 4 days. So we got Mewtwo Box, Ability Reshi, Green's Reshi, Blacephalon-Naganadel, Pikarom, Gardeon, and the honorable mention at the bottom is Pidgeotto Control. And I'm throwing that in there just because it made top 8 at Worlds, and it also won one of the DC Open flights, although I don't think it's going to be that great moving forward. First, we'll be looking at Mewtwo Box. Henry Brand won the World Championships Masters Division with this list on the screen. And as we go through lists, I have some cards highlighted that I would like to talk about, so do follow along with that. First, we have the Pikarom-GX. That's a really good inclusion because it takes it does 2 things basically for 1 card slot. It has a really good attack, an aggressive attack that does damage, 50 plus 50 more for each basic energy you discard from this Pokemon. And then it has the GX attack, which mills 5 cards from your opponent's deck, which can be good versus anything that drew aggressively, or namely any control decks or stall decks that either 1 didn't use their Latios GX's clear vision, 2 prized it, or 3 they aren't playing it at all. You can just mill them at the end of the game. Cobalion-GX was a unique inclusion. Since Brand was not using the rainbow energies in here, Cobalion's ability doesn't help, but the GX attack stops your opponent from attacking next turn, and that can let you prepare a little more next turn, like use another welder or get another manual attachment for turn, something like that. And then the Fire Crystal, Henry said himself that it should be an energy recycle system. And the 3 Psychic Energy I highlighted because a lot of builds previous to Worlds were focused on using Rainbow Energy, and Brand decided to use Psychic instead and cut out some other attackers that didn't use Fire or Psychic Energy, and it ended up working out for him. This is my current updated list for Mewtwo Box. I've added 2 Rainbow Energy in, and a Greninja GX, because its attack goes through abilities like Keldeo GXs that cannot be hit by GX or EX Pokemon. And our entire deck, aside from the Marshadow Reset Hole, are GX Pokemon. And I think it would be a good idea moving forward to have something that goes through effects like that. It can also go through Tag Purge in maybe the Mirror Match. So I like having that option as of now. Again, I'm just testing with it. I'm not saying it's 100% optimal, but I think moving forward it's smart to have something that allows you to go through those safeguard effects. I've added a Channeler. It allows you to use your GX attack once your opponent has clear visioned. It also lets you Flare Strike twice in a row. Just kind of niche situations, but I do think Latios GX is prevalent enough in this current meta that Channeler warrants at least testing. And then, of course, the 2 Rainbow Energy that I've added. So Mewtwo made this top decks list, and it's actually number 1 because it is consistent, at least Brand's list and the list I've updated to test. It rewards skillful play because of all of the options you have in the list, or even if you change the list, the way Mew Box is, it can have so many options, and using the right ones at the correct times is rewarding. So that's nice. And it can be aggressive due to Welder and its aggressive attacks like Reshi Ram Charizard, and then the Magcargo that can also do a fair amount of damage early on, and it has outs to many situations because of all the options that you can put into the deck. Like I was talking about the Greninja GX that can go through safeguard abilities, that's just another out to another situation, which all these pros about the deck culminate to make it a very good top tier deck. Next is Ability Reshi. This is toward Reklev's top 4 World Championships 2019 list. I really like Ability Reshi because of Ninetales team up. It's infinite gust effects in a format and a meta where gusts are powerful, but they're not very prevalent because all we really have is Custom Catcher and we have Ninetales, and Ninetales needs fire energy to work. The Victini Prism is amazing and something that myself and my friends didn't try in Ability Reshi previous to Worlds, and it was definitely a missing piece in our lists. If you don't know what it does, for 2 fire, it does 20 damage for every basic fire in your discard and then shuffles them back into your deck, so it can do a ton of damage. Even mid-game you can get the damage up there because of the way this deck is built with 18 fire energy. And then Tord played 3 Super Scoop Up, and a lot of people have been changing the Super Scoop Up spots, and I have as well. And this is my updated list of Ability Reshi. I just cut the 3 Scoop Ups for a Mew from Unbroken Bonds to make the Pikarom matchup better, for a 3rd switch, and for a Fire Crystal. And I've actually seen several people that have made either close to or these exact changes as well. So Ability Reshi is on my list because it is built to be a streamlined deck. It's built to do kind of the same thing every game. There are a few different attackers, but you basically have Victini as your endgame attacker, you have Reshi as your early game attacker, and you want to set up Ninetales to gust around and knock out exactly what you want to. It is aggressive because of the Ninetales and the Welder, kind of like Zoroark was aggressive back in the day because you had Bloodthirsty Eyes and a supporter for turn. Here you have Welder to attach extra energy, and you can gust something up with Ninetales. It can finish games quickly because of its high damage and its aggression. It has single, double, and triple prize card attackers to choose from to change your opponent's prize race. And Ninetales is the best gust effect in the game currently. The second Reshi variant on the list is Green's Reshi, focused on using Green's Exploration to fish out the trainer cards that you need to formulate your game plan. This is Blaine Hill's top 4 list from World Championships 2019 Masters Division. I like the Lusamine, although it can be slow. It allows you to run one of stadiums and then get them back in the matchups where they're relevant. So you don't have to run 2 power plants or 2 Lysander Labs. You can run one of each and then get back essentially a second one in the matchup that you need it. I don't think 4 Mixed Herbs and 4 Great Potion is necessary. I think it's kind of an abundant amount of healing, and you could probably go down to 2 or 3 Great Potion. It's very good if you're expecting a lot of Malamar, which I'm sure players were for this tournament, but even then I'm not sure if you need 4 Great Pots when you have Lysander Labs and Lusamine to combat the spell tags. And then the last thing I've highlighted here is the reset stamp. There's only one, and I kind of feel iffy with just 1 reset stamp. Although I've seen a lot of players do it, I prefer to have 2 myself. So this is my current list. I've added 2 switch, and I've added a 2nd reset stamp. I didn't really like his omission of switch in his top 4 list, but he did get top 4, so there's a ton of merit to that. Top 4 at Worlds is nothing to scoff at. Just like in my Mewtwo list, I've added a channeler to get through clear vision, so you can use your GX attack, and it also allows you to use Flare Strike twice in a row. And then this next part, I've taken influence from Rahul Reddy's top 32 list. He played a martial arts dojo and a fighting energy to increase your damage cap. But he played 10 fire and 1 fighting, and I'm playing 11 fire and 1 fighting because I didn't want to really risk not having enough energy. Explaining why Green's Reshi is on my top decks list. It can be built to fit the player's preferences like we saw all those trainer cards in the list, and you can change a lot of things up and the deck still stays good. It has a very high skill ceiling, which is appealing to good players because their play will usually be rewarded for making the correct decisions with Green's Exploration, even 1 or 2 turns ahead of time. It has strong comeback potential, which is something that players have asked for in the game for a while, and because of Plant and Lusamine to get Plant back, Stamp, the high HP of Reshi, the healing, the deck just has so much comeback potential, so that's really nice. And because of Green's Exploration, it allows you to play based on what's in your deck that you've built, and not the cards that you've drawn into. Next is Blacephalon-GX Naganadel, which placed 2nd at World Championships in the hands of Shintaro Ito. His list is a bit different, as we should expect from Shintaro. He is not usually the one to play orthodox decks. I like the 2 Naganadel GX for draw power, that's really good. The 2 Heatran GX, I'm not sure if 2 is correct, but I do like Heatran GX as an alternate attacker versus Gardeon. The Mew is there as a Pikarom tech, and it makes your Pikarom matchup a little better. And he plays a Psychic Energy, so he has another chance to use Venom Shot from Naganadel GX, not only the Beast Energy. So my only problem really lies with the supporter lineup. I don't like Hapu in the deck, and I am not a fan of a singular Lily, especially since we don't have anything like Lele in the format to search out your supporter turn 1. So Lily is strongest turn 1, and to only play 1 just doesn't sit right with me. So that's one of the main things I've changed. But Blacephalon isn't a deck that I've tested a lot post Worlds, so I'm not comfortable really sharing an updated list, but surely Shintaro Ito's deck is a very good place to start if you want to build a Blacephalon-GX Naganadel deck. Blacephalon is in my top decks because it has explosive turns, and it trades very favorably with tag team based decks as long as you don't miss your Beast Ring or miss your Welders or attachment for turns, get your Naganadel set up. And also it has onboard draw support with Naganadel GX's ability that is essentially a trade away an Ultra Beast for 3 cards. It's a really good draw ability, and we don't have a lot of onboard draw support in the current meta. So I think that's a very big thing not to be overlooked because it can help you recover from Reset, Stamp, and Judge. Next is Pikarom, and this is the Pika Judge variant. Charlie Lockyer played to top 32 at Worlds. It plays 4 Jirachi and 3 Dedenne, and then the 4 Judge. And these are connected because Judge is there to kind of mimic Let Loose from Marshadow Shining Legends. And then the Jirachi and Dedennes help you draw out of the Judge, while hopefully your opponent does not draw out of the Judge. So it's kind of disrupting early game there, and then it allows you to set up and use these huge attacks from Pikarom and Raichu. The Judge also is really, really good versus Green's Exploration builds because they will like to build up large hands throughout the course of the game. So Judge isn't only good in the early game there, but throughout the entirety of the game. This is my updated list. I added Oranguru from Ultra Prism. I really like that card in here, as I'm also running 1 Plant, 1 Labs instead of 2 Labs. The Plant is good in the mirror if you get like a Stamp, Judge, and then Plant, like either Judge or Stamp and then Plant. It's good versus Keldeo, it's good versus Mewtwo. And then the Labs is, it was originally there for Malamar, but it's also now there for Gardeon. And 1 Labs doesn't really cut it versus Gardeon, so most of the time you'll have to resource manage the Labs back with a couple other pieces and then use it again later on. Oranguru can also help you if you have like a lull turn where you can't really do enough, so you just like resource manage back a couple custom catchers or Electro Powers, whatever you need to finish off the game. So Pikarom is on the top decks because Tag Bolt is just busted. 200 to the active plus Electro Power damage and then 170 to the bench is just insane. It's so powerful, and it's enough that there's a Mew in the format that people put in just to tech against this deck. It's fairly consistent because of all the search and the draw power it has and the good supporters it has. It has a lot built around the archetype. Like Pokemon wanted this archetype to happen. And like I said, it has explosive draw power via the Dedenne-GX, and it has strong search for the deck via Electromagnetic Radar and Volkner. Next is Gardeon. This is Hideki Sano's list from 9th place at Worlds. I haven't worked with Gardeon too much post-Worlds, but there are some things about the list I don't like that I would change. I don't like the Mimikyu GX, but I do like the Xerneas GX. The 3 Judge is a bit questionable, since, like I said, Green's decks want to build their hand up, and also you don't have onboard draw support, so judging yourself feels a little weird, and I'd rather just play more stamps. The 4 Power Plant is very nice and very aggressive to always be stopping your opponent from using powers. But yeah, the Judge really just doesn't sit well with me, and neither does the Erica's Hospitality, since you want to build large hands. I'd rather see cut the Mimikyu and play Coach Trainers. But other than that, the deck is very good at controlling. It's good at what it does. It plays slightly similar to Green's Reshi just because it's a Greens deck, and you'll play the catchers and the herbs and things like that. But it's much more controlling than Reshi, where it has the aggressive side. So it has all of the same pros in my eyes as Green's Reshi. It can be built to the player's preference, it has a high skill ceiling, it has a strong comeback potential, and the Greens allows you to play based on your deck, not your hand. But while Green's Reshi has higher damage output, Gardeon has more control due to the Magical Miracle GX, which if you have 6 energy, it shuffles your opponent's hand and then they draw 0. Lastly, we are taking a look at Pidgeotto control, which was the DDG list of the tournament. Isaiah Williams got top 8 with it. And frankly, I'm surprised that this type of control stallish list performed that well at Worlds, since in the past, the DDG control or stall lists have notably been very good at regionals and ICs, where people were unprepared for the decks or didn't know how to play against the decks, and they got a lot of wins off of that. But playing in day 2 of World Championships, you kind of expect there to be more preparation and more knowledge about how to play around these decks, which might be why very good players piloted this deck and also did not finish very well. But Isaiah did finish in the top 8, and that's kind of why this is here. So just to explain what the deck does kind of, and why it's on the top decks, it can establish a perfect lock by stamping your opponent to 2 cards, then using Surge to allow you to play 2 additional supporters after Surge, and those supporters are Mars and Mars, which puts your opponent to a 0 card hand, and then use Chip Chip Ice Axe to put a dead card on top of your opponent's deck. And you do that until you've Marsed away all of their cards and they're out of a deck pretty much, and out of playable cards. If it wins a long game 1, it will usually win the entire set, but on the flip side of that, if it loses game 1, it's probably tying at best. And so control decks usually prey on unprepared lists and misplays, so if you're going into a meta like that, then a list like this might be good. That is it for this week of Top Decks. I hope you enjoyed this video, and you can find a link to a Google Sheet in the description below to PTCGO exports of all of the updated lists I included, and the lists that are not my own are all from LimitlessTCG.com, and you can find PTCGO importable versions of the lists there, as well as all of the lists that they collected from World Championships. Be sure to check out FlipsideGaming.com and use code CELIO, all caps, for 10% off of your next order $10 or more, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the content. I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.